Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about returning to training from illness or injury, both short-term and long-term, because this is going to be kind of a comprehensive video, guys. I probably can't give you real cliff notes here. This is going to be one of those, if you really want to know, you probably need to listen to the whole thing. Sorry, it just is what it is. So I'm going to put on my cap here. It makes me look like a goddamn sexual tyrannosaurus. And let's knock this out. All right, returning from illness or injury to training. First of all, the thing that you need to understand, depending upon the length of time involved, there's almost certainly going to be detraining. If you miss 2 weeks or more of training for whatever reason, you are going to lose some muscle, you're going to lose some strength, you're going to lose some performance, endurance, you're going to lose all your performance elements a little bit. Everything starts detraining at the 2-week mark. Now, depending upon the nature of the illness or injury, you could lose quite a bit because you're going to have possible areas that need to be rehabilitated in your body. If you've been sick and really sedentary due to illness, you're going to have seen dramatic changes in body composition most likely. If you're sedentary and dealing with certain things, you're going to lose muscle, but you're probably going to have gained weight too if you've gotten depressed and overeaten, or you're used to just eating more because you're physically active. You're probably going to gain some body fat. So body fat gain and muscle loss are both going to be factors there. And again, the amount of time you spent away is going to affect that. And in my case, as you guys know, I had to take 4 years away from training, somewhere between 3.5 and 4 years, due to illness and inability to train, being fully medically disabled. And I spent 10 months of that pretty much bedridden. Needless to say, I lost tremendous amounts of muscle and gained a lot of body fat. Actually, I gained 100 pounds of body fat while I was in bed sick due to a combination of depression and other things. And keep in mind, I had gone from where at the point when I got sick, I was benching 405 raw, and I was able to squat 550 without any sort of wraps or sleeves at the time. So that was a pretty big fall to spend 10 months in bed and years with no real training. So what can you expect to return to normal? Well, again, barring rehabilitating any injuries, any non-injured areas of your body, if it's just been illness, expect to take as much time to regain it as you spent away. If you spent 3 or 4 weeks away from training while sick, expect to take 3 to 4 weeks to regain what you lost and to get back where you were and then start progressing again. If you took 2 months off, 3 months off, whatever it happened to be, expect it to take just as long to return. In my case, obviously with a longer illness and me getting older and up into my middle age during that time, I never fully regained everything I lost. Even to this day, I still haven't. I don't bench over 400 pounds. I barely hit over 500 pound squats. And that's even with TRT and other assistants involved. And I had gone down to 3 years completely drug free and had been clean for 3 years when I was hitting those numbers. So, I mean, due to the time frame involved, it was pretty substantial. Now, the thing that you need to realize when you come back, you need to accept that you're going to be weaker, you're going to have less stamina, your recovery might be down a bit. Again, if you've been sick and you're rebounding from that, the most important thing that you need to do is make sure that you don't push yourself too hard. Your recovery is going to be compromised. Your work capacity is going to be lower if you've been sick or hurt and had to take time off. What I'm going to recommend is that you take probably if you spent more than 2 weeks away, from the gym, I'm going to say take at least a 2-week transition into even doing your normal type of workloads. If you spent less than 2 weeks away, I would say come back your first couple of workouts and come in light. Treat them like deload workouts. But if you spent more than 2 weeks away, something like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, I'm going to recommend that you take 2 full weeks of deload type workouts to where you gradually work back up. Literally, if you were benching 100 kilos or 220 pounds for sets of 10, I'm going to recommend that you drop to half of that weight. If you were doing 3 sets, I'm going to recommend you drop to 2 sets. Cut your workload down a little bit, cut your weight down, and spend 2 weeks building your lifts back up, kind of to roughly where they were before. Don't go in hard immediately. You're going to get sore, you're going to get potentially hurt, you're going to end up getting really fatigued, exhausted, and it's going to kill your motivation to train. Gradually ease back in. And I know a lot of guys, when you spent downtime and you haven't been able to train, you're chomping at the bit. You're wanting to get in there and kill some fucking iron. I get that. I understand that. But you know what? The worst thing you can do is hit it too hard immediately after that. ease back into it. You ease back into it, you're less likely to get hurt, less likely to be demotivated, and when you finally start getting those results again, it's going to be a sweet feeling. It's going to be, you're going to have that sense of accomplishment and victory when you're able to get there and you've done it injury-free and without wearing yourself out. It's going to be so much better. Now, and again, injured areas, you're going to have to rehabilitate those. You're going to have to probably get some professional help with the rehabilitation aspect of any injured spots or areas if you had to take time off from injury. So that's more of a specialty area you might need to consult a specialist with. Now, long-term downtime. A lot of people either got sick for a long time or because of life had to spend several years away from training, a year or more. Totally different animal, guys. I'm not going to lie. It's really, really hard when you come back, and you know what you have to do? You have to accept it a day at a time, and you have to take victory in those little baby steps. For me, after that time in bed and me gaining 100 pounds and being in bed pretty much 90% of the time, I lost my ability to really walk. I was able to walk when I finally got up and decided to really get mobile again. The first day out, I only made it down the sidewalk about 3 houses and then was exhausted and had to sit down and rest for about 30 seconds and get up and walk back home. Learning to walk again was a victory. Being able to squat my body again was a victory. First time I had to squat again, I had to hold on to the back of a chair and squat my body. And I got 3 reps and pulled myself up on those. And you know what? Eventually, I was able to do 10 holding the back of a chair. Eventually, I was able to do my body weight. And then eventually, I was able to do 20 with my body weight. And after a few years of rebuilding that, I was able to hit over 500 pounds several times for you guys on camera raw. So, that being said, that took me over 3 years to get there. 3 long years. What you have to do when you come back from a very, very long time away from training, whether you're sick or just you got sedentary due to a lifestyle, a job, a career, you have to take it very, very slow. No matter where you were before, you need to understand you have lost 100% of it. You are a noob starting back and maybe even weaker than you were as the first time as a noob. In my case, I was. You have to accept that. And you have to accept the fact that you're going to rebuild everything from the ground up. You're going to experience noob gains again. You're going to have to redo everything. And it's not going to come a lot faster than it did your first time. People talk about muscle memory all day long. Well, you know what? It only speeds things up a little bit. It's only a little bit, maybe 50% faster, meaning it's going to take you a year to gain what you gained in the first year and a half you did training. That's what I found. That's just the reality of it. And what you have to do is set daily goals, weekly goals, and to keep yourself motivated, you're going to have to remember you're going to get tired easier. You're not going to have the work capacity, the strength, anything like you did before. It's all going to be gone. You're going to start back over. And you have to take joy and feel a sense of victory and accomplishment for those little things. It doesn't matter if you were squatting 400 or 500 pounds before. You're back to the bar. You're going to be starting back possibly with an empty bar again. And when you finally get to add plates to that bar, that's a sense of victory. When you put that first 20 kilo or 45 pound plate on each side and you squat that for reps or even for a single, even though that seems pathetic compared to where you used to be, that's a victory. And you have to look at it that way. You have to look at those milestones to keep yourself motivated, to keep yourself moving forward, to have that positive attitude. You have to be grateful for every one of those little milestones. Every time you get to a new plate on the bar, on a squat or a deadlift or a bench press, you have to look at that as a victory because you've overcome all that downtime. It doesn't matter if it's so much lighter than it used to be. It doesn't matter if it's weak by everyone else's standards. You're competing with yourself now. And you're coming back. So you have to be grateful. Be grateful for every one of those. And when you reach those new goals, you have to be happy about it. You've got to look at yourself and say, man, I'm glad I accomplished that. You can't go, man, this sucks. I'm still so weak. That negativity is going to bury you. You've got to look at each little victory and say, I am grateful for that victory. I'm grateful to have regained that strength or that muscle. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to reach the next one now. But you have to be grateful for each one, and you have to accept it as an accomplishment. And then you say, okay, what's next? I reached this goal. What's next? Can we get another plate? When you get to that one, can we get another plate on there? And you just take your time day after day after day. But it is important that you remain positive in that and that you set those little tiny goals, because they're all important. When you get to a goal that you're trying to reach, a bigger goal, by achieving 100 or 500 little tiny goals along the way. And every single one of those is important, and you have to be grateful for every one of them, and you have to accept that that's how it's going to be. It's going to be baby steps. But eventually, and you also have to know your limitations. You've got to go, okay, I'm not maybe as young as I used to be now. I've also gone through something that made me quit training. My work capacity is not always going to be what it once was. I'm not always going to recover like I once did. Find your limitations, accept them when you reach them, but find them and know them. And when you find them, you're going to know where they are. And it's okay to push those limitations sometimes. It's sometimes okay to say, well, that's where my limitation was a month ago. Maybe I'm better now. Maybe I recover better. Maybe my work capacity is better. I'm going to push a little more. And that's okay, because that's how you reach goals. You push a little harder. But you have to accept that you are maybe not as young or as healthy as you once were. Maybe the way that you remember things the way they used to be, maybe they really weren't. Maybe you're having some nostalgia. Maybe you just felt like you could always train a certain way and just bounce back and recover. But reality is maybe you weren't. Maybe you didn't train as hard as you thought you did back then. And so you got to keep everything in perspective. But it is all about being grateful for every single milestone that you reach. And you have to treat it coming back after a long-term downtime as each individual day. You got to live your life and your training and your recovery one day at a time. And be grateful for each day that you make progress, because every single one of those days counts. They all matter, and they're all important. And you've got to look at it that way. And you can't beat yourself up if it doesn't progress as fast as you remember you used to, or where you think you should be. You have to accept that the reality is that you're not. You're progressing at the rate that you can progress. But you know what? If you keep moving forward, you're going to get there one day. Because again, 1,000 little baby steps is a lot of progress. You just get there one day at a time. And always keep that in perspective, and keep a realistic and positive perspective on it. That's the most important thing to a recovery after long-term illness that kept you away from training. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.